enough guts to put yourself out there the way you do. And I just, like listening, especially like listening to like the first couple of episodes where you're, trying to kind of like figure out like what it is and like how you're going to crack the story. Like, people must think you're insane.
I don't think, people I'm interviewing?
Yeah. Like, I'm looking for a belt buckle.
I don't think so. I think people think, maybe Hans did, but I feel, like for the most part, people don't. I think when it comes to the mystery, people get instantly into it. Yeah. It's a really easy thing for people to jump on. Yeah. To the quest part of it, and then in terms of interviewing, I think they kind of like obviously they know I'm interviewing them. There's a mic in their faces, but I think they almost don't even register it. Not that I'm trying to be sneaky. Again, there's a giant mic. Yeah. But I think it's just such, like, my show and these stories are so what people are not used to being interviewed about that I don't know. I don't know if they think I'm insane as much as it. One of the best parts of making the show was how on board people got and how willing to help. And that was nice because it didn't feel like I never had to feel like some sort of weird reporter figure. I mean, I find that, like, I'm still, to this day at a point where even like people who you would think would be media savvy, I'm still having to explain to them, what podcasts are and how podcasts are different. Yeah. But you don't feel like you have to do that. You don't have to start from scratch and explain like why you're investing your time doing this weird thing. I say there's a mystery and I need to solve the mystery. I guess, we don't get so much into, the podcasting is always confusing. It's always hard to explain. And like with the belt buckle episode, Chef Renee had to be the one who explained it to everyone, all the older people in that story, because they didn't know how to hear it. So he was like the tech savviest of all of that group. And so he was, and I think it involved him basically inviting people over to his house to listen on his PC. Like, it wasn't like he was like download it on your phone. Like, I think it was like, I'll have a listening party at these times. Wait, like when the episode went live? When it went live, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I'm saying like he was the tech savviest, and it meant he just managed to make it to the website, click on the link, probably after a lot of studying, and then have people over and listen it with him, But there is an interesting idea that, like, sort of divorced of the fact that you're doing a podcast, or like you can also, like, I also often take the path of least resistance and just say like I'm doing a radio show or something like that as by way of explaining it. But like, independent of that, people just accept that, like, you're looking for the owner of a belt buckle. Yeah, they accept that more. I feel like it's easier to explain that I'm looking for the owner of a belt buckle than it is to explain what a podcast is. Like, that's a much easier thing. Do people just have these like weird like white whales in their life? No, but I do think like what appeals to people about the show is that it's like it's relatable, and I feel because the mysteries are of a certain nature, they really do feel. It feels like a sincere quest, which I feel like is important. It doesn't feel like I'm just being like, I want to go on an adventure today. Like, I feel like there's a very clear reason why everything is happening and why I want them to be solved. And the people feel that, and just for the most part are very. Definitely more often than not, people are willing to help. So that's got to be one of the qualifiers then when you're first sitting down with somebody and brainstorming and trying to figure out like whether this is worth doing, is if they actually have like some sort of emotional investment in. Yeah, I think sincerity is a big part of it. I think what's hard is making people. It's hard to explain to people like the urgency. Like, sometimes people won't always call me back right away, or they kind of forget because they're not aware that a schedule of a show. The urgency is that it's a weekly program. Well, not weekly. It's been a year since the first season came out, so it's not a weekly, but it's more like, but just always also to keep momentum going, and you want new clues, and I feel like, so that's harder to explain, but I feel like, definitely when I'm looking for people, like when I'm choosing which cases to use, it's that personal element is crucial, but it also has to be not a jokey personal element. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want it to just be some sort of ironic thing. I want it to be like, even if it's funny and even if it's weird, I still has to be coming from a real place. But that's the interesting line, because like in a lot of cases it is kind of funny, or silly maybe is the right word. No, funny. I think funny is a better word, because I wanted it to be funny, because I feel like silly wasn't definitely not what I was going for. Like, I feel like the clients on my show are funny people. like David Reese, who is the source code episode, Jake Gyllenhaal episode. He's like a very funny guy. So I feel like it was when I was thinking about doing the show, I wanted to make sure there was a show that wasn't wacky. It was a show that it was funny because there were funny people featured on it, not because it was trying to be like make jokes.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, the people are funny, but oftentimes like the mystery itself is also funny, and it's hard to. I mean, is that a hard line to walk between being funny while being sincere?
No, because I feel like the humor is sincere too. Like I won't put anything on that I won't put like a funny bit on unless I legitimately find it funny. Like it's not. I'm trying not to force it. I don't know if it's coming across, but that's what I'm trying to do. So I feel. No, I mean I feel like. And it's like, and there's like a certain kind of comedy I feel that is like the tone of the show is about like taking everything very seriously. Yeah. And it's funny how serious every like mystery is taken, and that I feel like is a source of the humor. I mean, it's definitely rooted in, you know, when I first started listening to it, and you know, and kind of based on like your on-air personality too. Is it feels like it's kind of rooted in. Like an Encyclopedia Brown, like, you know, like Bobbsey Twins or something, you know, like a kind of like a childhood mystery book. Yeah, I think it's supposed to feel like that. I mean, everyone always asks. I get more Encyclopedia Brown than I don't. Or Nancy Drew or whoever. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I know. I don't even. I mean, Nancy. The older ones I don't remember as much as like I did definitely read Encyclopedia Brown when I was a kid. But I feel like it's also rooted. I mean, I've said this before. Like, I feel like it's rooted in Columbo and Fletch. And, you know what I mean? Like those kind of. I feel like the hybrid of. I just am really drawn to the kind of comedy that takes things very seriously, and never breaks character. What I'm not drawn to is I don't like a job done badly. Yeah. Like I'm not as drawn to the detectives who are bad at being detectives. Like I feel like that even when it's serious or played for laughs. Like I just saw that movie, The Nice Guys. Oh yeah. And it like I was like going crazy because they were like so bad at their jobs, and I feel like that doesn't register as funny to me. Well, you also so the episodes are what, around like 40 minutes. The shortest are around half an hour, and the longest is an hour and 17 minutes. Okay, but you've got. I mean, you have to have some sort of satisfactory ending, right? I do, yeah. And if you're shitty at your job, you can't have necessarily a satisfactory ending. Yeah, and I just don't find it. I don't find it interesting to me to be bad at it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best detective in the world, but I feel like I really am trying, and I would like to be. And so I just don't. To me, it definitely not. The payoff would never be. Oh, I'm just fumbling. But it would be a really boring show if you're the best detective in the world, right? Well, I'm not. It would be. Well, I don't know. I like watching the one that's the best detective too. I mean, I guess Sherlock Holmes, it gets boring because he knows too much, right? But, I mean, I feel like for me, you're like watching me figure things out, like figure out how to figure things out, and so I think that's probably. Well, yeah. I was talking to somebody about this recently, and you know, I realized that like there's when I'm like preparing for an interview that there is kind of. You've got to walk the line between over preparing and under preparing. Like there's certainly a lot of value. Yesterday I interviewed Mary Roach, right? She's not a scientist, but she's a science writer, and part of her appeal is that like she kind of goes into it not really knowing much about it, and that's, you know, I think like the fact that you're figuring out how to solve the mysteries as you're going along is a big part of the story. Yeah, and also I don't know anything. Like everything that you hear me discover on tape, I've discovered for the first time. Like nothing is pre-screened or pre-prepared. So I think that's a big part of it too. And I mean, you know, the mystery. And if you were like a super great practice detective, the mysteries themselves would be very different, right? Oh, like what kind of cases I would take on? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe I would take on a murder or something. Then I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like I even had. It's funny because like with the I Love 911, 9/11 one, I had like a private investigator trying to get addresses for me, and we still ended up finding it. Like the address ourselves, and I got the license plate by calling in a favor. Yeah, like I still feel like. It's interesting what you can enlist the professional help for and what you can, and how much it still is so fly by the seat of your pants, even with real detective work. But it would be like, you know, it would be serial if you were and like the tone and the tenor of the show would be extremely different. Yeah, but I feel like you could also do. Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, to me, I'm not trying. I mean, it's interesting trying to think about what the cases are. Like, a lot of the criteria for the cases is whether they'll lead to someplace interesting for me too. Like, if they go into worlds that I'm interested in exploring. So I don't know. I guess it's less about if it's like a serious case or a lighter case as opposed to like that.
Well, the thing that became clear to me early on was that. Clearly, like, you're enjoying solving the mystery and you take pleasure out of that at the end. But it seems to me that the thing you maybe get the most enjoyment out of are stumbling upon these people in the process. Like, and I don't know what it is about you. And I think I need to like keep listening and figure out like how you do this, but how you get people to just apropos of nothing spill very personal bits of information. That's a very interesting gift that you seem to possess.
It's funny. I feel like I get asked that, and I don't know. It seems like the easiest thing to do. There's nothing that no part of it that seems out of everything. It's the easiest part of the whole show.
I just don't like. I don't think that like everybody feels comfortable around people to the point where they could just give up really personal bits of information, and not just personal bits of information, not personal bits of information that like somehow pertain to the case, but like. You get these really like fascinating asides from people. One of the ones I was listening to this morning that really, I mean, the way when it clicked is we were doing the Britney Spears episode.
Ticketmaster.
And like that you couldn't have seen that coming.
I didn't. No. I mean, that was a cold call for sure. I mean, there was no plan behind that. But at the same time, I feel like that was one of the more. That was like such a natural moment because we were just talking and it led to that. Yeah, but who calls Ticketmaster and has that? Nobody. That just doesn't happen. Honestly, like I feel like that conversation was effortless to me.
Yeah.
Like, and real. I don't know. There was something. He was very, very easy to talk to.
Yeah.
I also didn't feel like I don't know. There was something about him because he was funny.
Yeah.
And he was kind of sarcastic, and there was something very like it didn't like just tip over to sadness, you know what I mean? Like it was a real conversation. We got to real places with it, but I feel like he was also he was keeping it going in a different kind of way too. He just was really interesting. And so but I don't know, I guess I feel like I knew when I made this show that that those kind of moments were going to be what a big part of the show was about, but it's not like every moment like that makes it into the show. It has to be particular.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about like how much actually goes into the making of an episode. I mean, you've like we've been trying to set this up for a while, and you've been really busy. I assume like you've been on some hot cases. You've had some hot leads. Yeah,
and I've been out of town working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot goes into it. And it's hard because I have to, a lot of it has to be me because of those Ticketmaster moments. Like the Ticketmaster moment it was really great, and I knew, like, it helped me formulate what the show is, for sure, but also I was like, after it happened, I was like, oh no, this is going to make the show so much harder to make because I'm going to have to be the one who makes those kind of calls.
Oh, that was the moment you realized that, like, your assistants couldn't just do all of the
I can't just, like, outsource. Because so much of what a case is like all the connecting bits, and you never know what's going to happen. And so if I just had someone else call Ticketmaster to ask about Britney's book, we wouldn't have had that conversation. So then it was like, oh no, this is really going to be, because I've never worked, that doesn't happen, like This American Life, it didn't happen. You know, you call the people before Ira does an interview. And you kind of like hit the beats a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of spontaneous stuff that happens in the interview, but you definitely like know what the interview, you know, the basic premise of it, and find the people that are going to be the final people interviewed beforehand.
I mean, it seemed like you were able to get like a little, because like your most famous This American Life piece is the Phil Collins piece, right? I mean, there seemed to be some unexpected moments in that.
That one was a lot of like, oh, if we don't get this time, we'll never get it. Like, because Phil Collins was only one phone call, and it had, you know, and then and me hearing the song for the first time. There's a lot of stuff, and that's true. When you're doing a reported piece, like in the field, it's more whoever you find to talk to and all that. But like if you're doing interviews in the studio, they're like set up ahead of time by a producer. And I feel like this Myster Show has none of that. I mean, every once in a while there'll be someone like I try not to use experts, but like there'll be someone like the 911 operator that we kind of like someone else found, but then I wasn't prepped ahead of time. You know what I mean? Because I also want it to be like whatever I find out in the conversation is all real.
Are those differences by design? I mean, did you want something a little more spontaneous than This American Life?
Yeah, I wanted it. I mean, This American Life has lots of spontaneous moments. Yeah. I'm not trying to make it seem like they're all.
No, but I mean, it's an incredibly. I mean, it's famous for being an incredibly well-produced radio show, and it's like you know, and they've got obviously like it's been around long enough that they know what they're doing. You know, and they're fitting. Like, I mean, one of like I think one of the nice things about the podcast form. This is probably a little more the case with my show because it's just like a long interview show. But like, is
this edited or you just keep?
It's edited a bit, but not a lot. We'll take the bad stuff out. But it's the the fact that like you're not fitting into an hour or however long the actual This American Life runs, and you're able to like you said before, it's like 40 minutes or it's 117 minutes that you're able to kind of give it that breathing room, and that you're able to treat the case with. I mean, obviously, like you probably still lose nice things that you'd like to keep in there because they don't like further the story along. Yeah,
I lose them if they like mess up the rhythm of the episode, not because they're not furthering the case. If they're just like an overall thing, if it drags, it's like it just a kill your darling thing. Yeah,
but you certainly have a lot more room to play around with than a show like Radio Lab or This American Life.
Yeah, and Myster Show's really 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 produced, but it's just a different kind of thing, and I just think there's. Like in a This American Life interview, where you're headed generally, and there's lots of surprising things that happen along the way. Yeah. And I think Ira's really good at finding those surprising moments, like making something diverge in an interview. But I feel like you at least know the kind of arc. And a lot of times with Mystery Show interviews, I don't know. Like I'm just talking to people for hours because I'm trying to. Because if they haven't given me a clue, I'm trying to see if there's how else they fit into the story. Yeah. And that can like in the Kotter episode, like the Welcome Back Kotter lunchbox, I was talking to people and they had to tell me all about this guy who had died, and I was talking for hours just trying to be like every memory they had of him to tell me, and like and it kind of takes time for those memories to get jogged. You know what I mean? Like little tiny details. Sure. And so like that I feel like is really different than interviews I've done before. And then it'll be like when I was pulling the chair up when I first got here. And the reason, like, it can be so hectic when I go to do an interview is because I'm recording the entire time. And so, like, and because I want it to feel spontaneous, like, there's no time. Like, I don't want to set someone up and be like, you sit here and this mic's here. We just kind of get going as soon as I walk into someone's house. Yeah. And so, like, that's why I'm, like, kind of dragging stuff and, like, kind of remembering to record. But, like, the main thing is the conversation. That's at the forefront of my brain. And then making sure and then trying to make the technology fit with that. Yeah.
I mean, I assume that they're that there must be some bad leads. There must be some time you're going out there. I mean, it's like, and you make a point of keeping in the moments that are like particularly coincidental, that are like, I mean, obviously it's a better story if it's like, I could have missed this by a second, but like somehow everything fell into place. But there must be instances where, things don't line up. Or, I mean, have you like, how far into an episode have you gotten and not have it actually like, reach an end?
I mean, I've been working on one for over a year. Huh. And it's just, and not only is it not an end, it's like nothing gets any closer to the ending. Like, that's different. There's one thing if it's, like, if you don't have the solution in sight yet, but it's like, what the path is. And, like, this one is like, the path is still completely.
What's keeping you going?
It's a good mystery. And also, like, I think it's like you put stuff in, like, what's it called when you, like, I put so much into the pot already. Yeah. It's a poker term. Like that's
like
why
all
you stay in.
Yeah.
Not all in. Yeah. It's the reason you stay in is because you lose so much now.
Yeah. You've invested too much into it.
Yeah, and so you lose more because of.
But it's. I mean, there's gonna, like, if you keep doing this for a long enough time, there will have to be ones that you'll have to kind of give up or. Yeah. There's ones I've given up on that are early though. Yeah. But then there's some that I've worked on for a long time that it's like you don't even ever say you're giving up because you're like, what does it mean? Like, you're just like,
it feels like you could work on it forever.
Yeah.
In some way, even if you didn't make an episode of it, like it'll be the one that you always are searching in some way. But there's other ones that like that never get out of the gate. They just don't get far at all after the first interview.
How do you manage your time? I mean, like it's
poorly, I would say.
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, sure, but also like either. I mean, I can't even imagine when you're. Like this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to talk to you, and that's going to be an episode. Or like if I'm like writing, it's like pretty clear when I'm done with a story. But if one thing can take 1 month and another thing you're spending a year on, like how do you ever put episodes out? I guess is the question.
I mean, I think it's very unwieldy in that way, and I feel I don't know. Like I feel, and the hardest part is that it's how unpredictable solving even a similar case can be. Yeah. Because, like, I thought I had a pretty good idea from the first batch how long things might take, but it actually is that's not reliable. Yeah. So that's
There's so many moving parts.
Yeah, but there was a lot of moving parts in the first season too. Yeah. But I could plan it. I was still able to plan some things, not like know things, but like plan trips. To Phoenix or to Vegas.
Oh, you're saying that there's a like a contrast between the first and second season in terms of the amount of time that it takes?
There's just like there's more unpredictable. There's a level of unpredictability that I didn't even anticipate, even though I knew it was an unpredictable show. Because it's like I feel like the cases decide almost when they want to be solved. Because like some of them just like offer themselves up to you in a way like immediately, where they're not just like telling you the answer right away. Because I couldn't use those either. But then like it's like you just see the path. It just is there, and it's so clear. And other ones, it's like very tantalizing the idea of solving them, but the path is much harder to interpret.
That's interesting. I mean, so have there been instances where you just solved the thing too fast?
Yeah, there's definitely been ones where I felt it too fast, or I could tell it was going to be too easily solved, and it didn't take detours that were interesting enough. Yeah. Like, I don't know, that world thing is really appealing to me. Like, with the first season, I can feel, I knew when I heard there was, like, this community of expat European chefs in Phoenix, Arizona, like, that was really appeling to me. Yeah. And then
you knew that no matter what, there's an interesting story.
It was like a world that I wanted in the show. It was like what the show was supposed to be full of. Yeah. And the same thing with Britney Spears, and the same thing with lunchbox design. Like all of that fits together to me in what the show's about. And sometimes there'll be like mysteries that have those that kind of gesture towards those worlds, but like they're not possible to solve, or the solution's too easy, and it's a really hard balance to achieve.
It's a little bit like it's a little bit subculture. It's a little bit things that like I mean like I think like the Britney Spears one, like we know that there are these VIP packages, but who's actually like been to one of those? Who's actually experienced what it's like?
And also Britney just is to me the perfect protagonist in that story. Like I feel like she was so right. And
what would happen if like, because it's not like you like toward the end of that story you get pretty close to a point where like you may not say anything to her. Yeah. You spent like $2,000 on that thing.
$2,500.
Yeah. Like hypothetically you get that far, she doesn't give you an answer. Is there an episode?
Yeah, there would have been an episode. She would have just said nothing. But I mean, it was so stressful because I knew I was going to ask, obviously, but I had no idea if she was going to say anything or if they were going to even let me have time to say anything. And it was so much money for those few seconds. And there definitely would have been, because I would have, or I would have, I don't know. Like, I guess I would have maybe tried. I don't know. Yeah, there would have been an episode, but it might have been that she didn't give me an answer. And it wouldn't have been as satisfying, but it would have. But I got to her. Yeah. That was a really stressful one, and I felt really, really excited afterwards. And I loved the concert. I was like the happiest person in the concert in that whole place.
Were you a Britney Spears fan?
Yeah, I mean, I was I appreciated her, and there was a reason she was the one in the show, because I feel like she's great. But I actually had been kind of dreading the concert because I don't like going to big concerts. Yeah. I thought they just seemed really tiring. Not because I'm old, but just because, like a big, weird place in Vegas. Yeah. But I enjoyed it so much. I loved it. I was so happy because I got the answer, and then I was just able to relax, and then it was the best show in the world.
I mean, it's not hard for you to invest yourself in what seems like a very small thing too. I mean, you get like, and how much of that is the, again, and we were talking about sincerity before, but how much of it is the person with the case to be solved? Like, how much of that contributes to your enthusiasm about it?
Andrea certainly made that one. I mean, if it hadn't been Andrea, I don't think that case would have worked, because she kills me how she talks about Britney. And I knew that the minute I talked to her, like the minute we did that. It's one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. Like, I like every minute of it. Even the stuff you guys haven't heard, because, there's like always stuff you cut out. And
the director's cut.
It just, normally I cringe when I listen to my own interviews. And this one I love it, because she's so funny.
I really want, like, at this point, now that you've got like a number of episodes in your belt, I want to picture, we were talking about your office, and I guess you're kind of working from home at this point, but like, I hope that you get to a point where you've got like a little PI office.
I know,
I
do too.
And people just like walk in and give you.
I know, like Jessica Jones.
Yeah. What's the process right now? Is it just? I mean, it seemed like the first season was really you leaning pretty heavily on friends and people you knew already.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll still be a lot of. It's still a lot of friends and people I knew. I mean, it's mixed up more, but I do think that it's a winning formula. Having
a personality.
I also just like having friends as clients mostly. It's not everyone, but like mostly, because I think it's kind of gives it that clubhouse feel in a way, more like in a Scooby Gang way, not like in a elitist way. But I feel, because I think that actually anchors in a way that then makes it it actually allows for a lot of freedom for everyone else in the show to not be a friend, or
and
mostly everyone else.
And there's a built-in rapport there. I mean, because there's like so much. It's sort of like the skeleton of the show are the phone conversations that you're having with that person. So if you can screw with each other and riff on each other, then that's a good basis for the episode.
Yeah, and then I think it really goes into the real world after that, and I think that's. There's something that really works with that. It wasn't totally intentional, but I feel like it really works. And a lot of people who worked on the show in general were friends of mine. Like my friend Arthur made the logo, and my friends have done the scoring. And I just feel like it feels like accumulation of. It feels like accumulation of many friendships over the years.
It's nice. And it's nice, like giving people work.
I know. That's fantastic.
So, were you full time at This American Life?
Yeah, but years ago, and then I was a contributor, and then
I mean, that's it's like the show, right? I mean, it's like it's got to be a hard thing to leave.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously there's politics and other things, but I just mean in terms of like, then it's like the solo project thing of like, okay, well, I was in a band before, and now this is my thing, so. I get to take credit for the good things, but if it sucks, it's on me.
Yeah, and I feel like I did a lot of stories, and doing stories was not the same as like I like doing the stories I did, but I feel like having your own show is totally different than just doing stories.
Sure.
That I feel like is a very different experience. Creating my own entire show on your own, and like I wasn't worried about it sucking so much, but more. There's just a lot more to think about that isn't totally related to the show.
Yeah.
People's feelings,
logistics, also, and
just like
kind of
humans.
Yeah. In a way, like, not that you're running a business, but you're kind of running a business, right? I mean, you've got people working for you, and
and you have to also, like, you're always going to believe in your thing more than you can't expect anyone else to like care about it as much or believe in it as much. And I feel like I didn't totally understand that until I had my own thing. Yeah. Because you're always like you're going to be you think about it I think about it every second.
Yeah. I mean, you're in a better place, and like I will admit that before I actually listen to the show, and it's just sort of this thing, like especially now that everybody has a podcast, that it seems like you've got to like think of your gimmick, and I've listened to a lot of shows that are just like, oh, this is clearly somebody who felt like they need to come up with a gimmick. I mean, it 100% works, but at the same time, like, if you meet somebody and they're like, I'm starting a podcast where I solve mysteries, it's like, I mean, it's kind of a hard pitch early on.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I wasn't even trying to think of it as a gimmick in the beginning because
but you felt like you needed a through line or something.
I just needed to not be bored. It was, I mean, that's all it was. It was just like me trying to figure out something that would make me have follow through on it. Like it wasn't. I wasn't trying to have a gimmick. I really wasn't. I mean,
gimmicks is a strong word, but something that something you can commit yourself to.
Yeah, I wanted a structure for myself. Yeah. I needed to be like, oh, this is the idea, because I feel like I've done other things where I don't know what it's about, and then it kind of unravels because of me, not because someone else is saying what's it about. And so it just really helped me to know what the show was.
To have a structure.
Yeah, and it was mysteries, and it was just the only thing that didn't make me feel bored. I mean, it might be just a lack of I don't know, imagination on my part, but I was this is what made sense to me, but but it wasn't because I was trying to stand out. And if anything, Serial I had the idea before Serial. I did. But, I mean, I'm not saying Serial's is the most important thing to happen to anyone who does a podcast.
No, but it's an incredibly different show, and them solving one mystery over an entire season is very different than a bunch of little mysteries.
Yeah, but I think if I had I think I'm so easily discouraged that if I had heard Serial was coming out and then I'd come up with my idea, I wouldn't have ever allowed myself to even think about it, because I would have been it's just a knockoff. And so it just happens to be that I did have the idea, and I'd made the pilot a year before I even heard Serial existed. Yeah. And so I'm really thankful for that, because I would have sabotaged myself immediately. I would have just said,
yeah, and it's especially the thing with the internet being out there, that of course everything you look up, there'll be some version of it.
Yeah.
Did you was it you just wanting? How much of it was you wanting to have a show? They're jacks, I guess. Okay. There's a lot of weird decorative stuff around this office. How much of it was you just wanting to have a show, and how much of it was just I've got this really cool idea?
It was a cool idea. It was. Okay. I didn't really want to have a show.
Really?
Now I realize why somebody would want to have a show, what it means to have power. But I didn't understand, and so no, I really was into the idea, and it was the first idea I'd been enthusiastic about in a long time, and so that was important, and I felt like I couldn't ignore that. And then I was oh, this is why people do things.
Because I would have just assumed on the outside that it would have been Gimlet was we're launching this thing, we want you to have something on here. Can you pitch us a show?
No, because I already had made the pilot before Gimlet. I made the pilot 2 years before Gimlet, and then I sent it around to everyone. To,
is the pilot the first episode?
Yeah, I mean, there was some tweaks.
A rough version.
Yeah. And I did that by myself, and I sent it around to radio places, and they all loved it, but they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then Gimlet was starting, and then Alex and I went out to lunch, and he also really liked it, but he wasn't quite ready to he was only going to make one show that first year, and so we walked out of that lunch really sad, being it's a great show, but there's nothing that can be done, because it was going to be this, Gimlet was going to be one show. It was going to be Reply All. And then at the end of that walk, I was well, can you just be my editor, and you don't have to pay me. And then he was oh yeah, and then by the time we saw each other again, they'd already decided that Mystery Show was going to be one of the first shows they launched. So it happened even that happened very fast. But I definitely had the idea. I think honestly, I don't know if they would have picked it up if it had been the other way, because I think it's such a risky sounding idea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That pitch, the elevator pitch, as they call it, is kind of none of the nuance, none of the charm comes through,
and all the risk and all the expenses.
Yeah. But it had to be. I mean, and I think one of the nice consequences of you having launched it, you having worked on a pilot before that, was that it became a show kind of in a sense built around your personality, and it has to be it just would not be as good of a show, or it wouldn't have as much character if it was if it was a more clinical approach, and it wouldn't. The whole smallish mystery thing wouldn't be as effective, right?
Yeah, and I think I would have. I mean, it was just so lucky in the sense that I just made that pilot by, I had nothing to lose, and then I went and I just was I'm going to try out this concept, and I went down to Tribeca, and I was wandering around, and I talked to that guy in the bar who told the Fellini story, and I was oh, that's amazing, I love this tape. and I never got sick of listening to that tape. Like, no matter how many times I hear it, I always like it. And I was like, oh, that says something. And like, this is what the show should be about. But I just was like feeling it out. And because I wasn't getting paid or, you know, like part of a system, I think it allowed me to like just be like, I think it allowed me to enjoy it for, you know, to enjoy the process, because it was just like in my apartment making it. And I was like recording voice tracks in my bedroom. I mean, the sound is the same in all of my apartment, but I decided like the bedroom had to be like the recording booth, and I would like record voice tracks and then run and put them in and then make a change and like go change that and record it again. And it was just something that there was something, you know, like arts and crafts about it that I feel like I don't always allow myself to do. And because of that, I had something ready to go.
And because of that, I mean, I think that's part of the reason why this, like, you know, people are comparing it to Encyclopedia Brown is like this image of you, you know, not having a show and like just earnestly wanting to solve a mystery. And I think you talk about like your like literally like walking around with a notepad and holding a tape recorder up to people. Like, that's kind of how the show got shaped, right? I mean, if it was a team of people, if it was This American Life size staff of people creating a show, it just wouldn't have had the same character.
Yeah. Although, I mean, Serial was a big operation, and she really wanted to solve that murder. Yeah,
but it's a different show.
It's different.
It works, but it works in a very different way.
Yeah. It's definitely different. Yeah, I mean, I think that like kind of scratchy feeling you get from the first one and from the show in general, the tone of it is because it was based on me. Like, I really did. I like grabbed my kit, went out in the rain. Like, all of that was very real. And I don't bring producers with me when I solve cases. Like, it's just me and Chef Renee or Britney. You know what I mean? Like, it really does. I really do want to embody being a detective as much as possible. So like, I don't like, it's not like I try to have nothing get in the way, like in between that.
You do have a staff though.
But it's not, but usually they're like, but when I call them investigators in the show, and that's really what they are, because it's like they're helping put together the cases. Like they're helping like find new clues.
Doing the legwork and...
Well, I'm doing like, we're all kind of, I mean, they're like, if they find a new clue, they have to tell me on tape, or they have to wait to tell me. Like, it can't be like, nothing is fake. Nothing is fake. If you hear me reacting to something, it's not because I ever knew it first. Is
that a rule that developed organically, or is that something that you needed to put in place from the beginning?
I mean, I just knew I didn't want anything to be fake.
Yeah.
Like, it was so important. And then I think around the time, definitely after I did Ticketmaster and that call, and I was just like, it's really important to be like a real moment happen that isn't canned or, like, I can't repeat that moment. You know what I mean? And
so
also,
that was a major turning point for the show in some sense.
The Ticketmaster was a major turning point. Calling Donna, no one ever talks about Donna, but the woman in the belt buckle episode, when I call her first, Hans took a painting class with her.
Oh yeah.
And she keeps calling him Armin Mueller-Stahl, and we go on IMDb together. No one ever talks about this moment.
And she remembers him of like thousands of people that she had in her class.
Yeah, she remembers him, and also she keeps like being like, we go on IMDb together, and she's like, it looks like this actor.
This obscure German actor.
But I was like giddy after talking to her on the phone, because to me, I was like, this is also what I really want the show to be, where I'm just like calling people, and the clues, like, she was so full of conviction about that being an important clue, that he looked like this other actor, that I was like, it's like, it's funny, but it's also because it's again that thing where she's very serious about it. And I'm not making fun of her. Like, I just feel like it just felt like very odd and fun to like go off on that side. And I feel so I mean, all those were major turning points, but I guess both that call and Ticketmaster were really big in the sense that I was like, I have to do every part of it myself.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't want to just make it. It's not like I can just be like, okay, now I can always call a customer service representative and have a moment. Like, I'm also not trying to. I don't want to do that. So that's why the show's challenging in the sense that it can't be duplicated. The moments that worked in the past.
I know, like, I know it's probably hard to quantify this because there's so much they differ so much from episode to episode, but like, you know, roughly how much time is going into creating an episode?
I mean, it depends. Like, I mean, it's like about 6 weeks to the mechanics of it. Like, once I start writing, I'm cutting and putting it out and assembling, but the cases are totally different amounts.
Like how much? Like just give me like like how much tape are you cutting? Do you, like hour wise? Do you have any?
Well, it depends because like again like Kotter had tons more tape than source code. Like the Jake Gyllenhaal episode doesn't have that much tape. Yeah. But it's still like 45 minutes or something. Huh. It's only 3 interviews, I think.
Are the better episodes the ones that have more sources that take more time, or the ones that take less time and are therefore just inherently good?
I think it really depends. I mean, I feel like you have to mix it up, but I mean, I love that Jake Gyllenhaal episode, and I love that it's like there's stuff in that one. Like I love the mystery itself. I love the parts of it. I love that there's like things that the writing accomplishes that couldn't be accomplished in other episodes. But I think I like them all for different reasons, but I feel like they all kind of, there's also a whole thing to think about how the episodes work off each other and like what it means to do a season of a show as opposed to just to do episodes that come out whenever, because I feel like that's the big difference to me too. What
does it mean to do a season? Is there?
Well, I feel like they have to fit together in a way that even if it's not serialized, they have to fit together in a way where they like a Radiolab episode don't have to fit together.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And This American Life episode don't have to fit together, even though they're not weekly shows. Yeah. But I feel like once you call something a season, like serial episodes obviously do, but those are serialized. But I feel like once you call something a season, then they have to, I don't know, have like.
But what's the common theme for season 1? I mean, obviously, like you're a common thread, and your development as a detective is a common thread. I
feel like there's like a texture to the kind of stories. Like they I don't know. It's like I think that one's a lot about the worlds that it kind of opens up into, and there's definitely I don't know if the word's not really underdog, but I feel like there's a certain kind of like hero in season 1 that kind of comes up over and over again. And I'm not saying like those couldn't come on season 2, but I think I have to now be careful that I'm not repeating something that was in season 1, or I don't know. I mean, I'm amazed that I was able to have 2 pop culture, like 2 celebrity ones in one season.
So what defines season 2?
Well, I mean,
you can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you feel like it's definitely
come
together in a way.
It's more like once you break things into seasons, you have to like.
In hindsight.
No, you have to establish what the difference between a season 1 and season 2 is. And it's more like, I guess, hindsight. Like when I was doing season 1, they all made sense to me fitting together, but they didn't all have to completely lock. But I feel like there's got to be a difference between season 1 and season 2.
Wait, so you had the mysteries lined up
before.
I mean, how or were you really working on it one episode at a time?
I was working on them before like the show came out. Okay. But I knew by the time that by the time the show launched what the mysteries were. Okay. And I think there was still there was one still being worked on, or one still being solved when the show was out.
Because you could go so far into any number of rabbit holes in terms of, especially like if you're finding new cases as you're working on a case, like that could just completely consume you.
I mean, there's some ways where it never stopped, but there's also other ways. I don't know. It's interesting because I really think the fact that once things are done, you can't quite do them the same way again. It actually starts to like eliminate options in a way that it didn't feel like when I was first starting the show, where it felt like everything was wide open.
Well, I mean, and that's, when we're talking about kind of like brainstorming the idea for the show, I mean, that is one of the concerns, is like how long can I keep this going? Like how long, not only will it be interesting for me, but how many of these things can I find? And you're like season 2 seasons in, but are you running up against any walls at this point?
I mean, I'm not worried about how many can I find. I'm more worried about how many can I it's more like how many different devices can I use? Yeah. Or it's more about keeping the ideas fresh to me and less. I mean, there's always mysteries. I get sent mysteries every day. I mean, really, really, really seriously every day. Yeah. Probably about 3 a day, at least, because they're like on Twitter and they're like emailing to me, and so I feel it's not that just like I definitely
this
discovered.
This is your life now.
Yeah, I definitely discovered that the world is full of mysteries. It's just like figuring out new ways to tell everyone about those mysteries is what I like I'm really focused on. But I wonder if everyone, like I was watching Game of Thrones last night, like they must worry, how long can this go?
Sure.
Like I just feel like the whole thing about being a creative person is, like, along with that creativity comes in the built-in fear of how long can this go on, unless you're writing a sitcom.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned devices, and I guess without pulling the curtain back too much, I mean, like, you know, like point to an episode from the first season, and like, what is an example of a device? Like
calling, like when Ticketmaster's, like the Ticketmaster conversation, where like you suddenly are like having a call with a customer service representative, or
but that's, I mean, that, you know, that specific thing, obviously, like you can't like call up like maybe Apple Care and have the same conversation, but that in a very abstract, broad sense is like kind of in a lot of ways the point of the show, are unexpected conversations. Yeah,
but you also don't want to like take it. You don't want to. You don't want to go for that. You don't want to be. You don't want to be like, my thing is unexpected conversations. I'm gonna go seek out some unexpected conversations.
Sure,
that's the thing.
But you're always. I mean, you're always hoping that, like, anywhere you go, you're hoping that if you fly to, like, you know, I don't know if this is spoiling, but if you fly to like Australia or something, that like, if when you get there, that you're going to meet somebody and you're going to have an interesting conversation. Obviously, like, conversation has to be the kind of the lifeblood of the show.
Oh yeah, definitely conversation. I mean, conversations. I mean, that's what. Yeah, definitely conversation. But I feel like the way that they're done, you just have to kind of, like, again, it's all about sincerity, and it's all about like where the story naturally leads. To me, it made so much sense to have that Ticketmaster call in that episode, because I feel like everything we talked about tied a lot into what else was happening in that episode. It's like perfect, I think. And so,
well, I think that's the fun thing about that conversation is like I when I was listening to it, like, I could hear your thought process, and I could hear you thinking about, because you were clearly like trying to tie the things in, and I think that made it interesting. But you were clearly like, oh, well, that's a good analogy for this, and oh, that's just like, this is just like Britney's life.
Yeah. But he set it up too.
Yeah, but it's fun. But it's like that, and I think again that ties into something larger in the show, is like listening to you try to connect the dots between something, and that's kind of
exactly
also one of the big points of the show.
Yeah. And I feel like there's been other times where I've been like talking to someone, and I'll like make some like overarching point, and they'll be like, no, it's not like that at all, and I like feel like such an idiot.
You'll just try to like shove like a square peg.
Yeah. That's why he was so great, because everything like felt very organic and real. But I feel, I mean, I don't know. And then there's like other devices in terms of like, you don't want to do like a conspiracy theory part again, like in Kotter, or like, I don't know, you just have to. And there's also like a whole thing with doing a quest over the radio is there's different ways you have to show time passing. There's different ways you have to like show being like getting a lead or being discouraged, and I like that. I like having to like figure out different ways to deliver that. I think my show might be like, because it's not quite a procedural in that sense, because procedurals are all about the same thing happening over and over, like Law and Order, you know. But I feel like it's more like it's like all unified by the premise, but then within that, it's like there's supposed to be a lot of change.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when I decided that I wanted to be like that, I really loved writing was when I figured out that how much of it is like working on a puzzle, and like how much of, I mean, there's a certain pleasure in the actual like writing itself, but in connecting all the dots. So I mean, you know, as cliche as this is, like there's a secondary mystery, and you have to approach. He gets to use, I think, two very like distinct parts of your brain. The part of you that goes out in the world and tries to do these, and then the part of you when you get back to the office, you try to figure out like where the show is. Yeah,
and I feel like my favorite thing about writing is, or like the writers that inspire me the most are the ones that suddenly that like write something, a very small moment, in a way that, like, a totally different way. Yeah. Like, and you suddenly are like, oh, there's a whole different way to. I think someone said like the hardest part of writing is getting someone out of the room, like having someone walk out of the room. Yeah. Because like having to do that with your own style, and all those little tiny connecting bits. I feel like my favorite writers suddenly like will write a sentence that you're like, I didn't even know it could be done like that. Yeah. And it's not like the whole plot is different, but it's just like all these little details.
I listen to Rachel Maddow's show a lot. I don't know if you ever listen to her at all, but like she does this, and it's like, it's to the point of cliche, but she does it really well, is this thing at like where you start off with an interesting story, and you make sure that where it ends is completely different than where it starts, right? Like that you're getting, or like The Simpsons actually used to do that really well, where you like start with the B story and it leads into an entirely different story that you don't know. You know, I think your show obviously wouldn't work well if you knew exactly where you were going when you got into it.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't. I think you'd build, and I don't think it'd work well at all.
And do you have to, is part of some of those asides? I mean, obviously you're keeping them because you think they're valuable in some sense, but do you feel like you're throwing like red herrings in at all?
I think it's not. I feel like kind of like but I think a red herring's in a good way, where it's like it's supposed to be a twist on the dead end, on like taking on dead ends or suspects, like the first suspect you interview that's not the killer, you know, like Law and Order.
It's like Serial. Like they could be like, okay, well we solved, like this is the thing, and it just wouldn't, like it would not be, you know, a 12 episode show.
But I feel like the whole you can't have a mystery without going on the quest. But I feel like instead of it just being dead ends and red herrings that are uninteresting, they're supposed to be like the red herrings are supposed to be stories that you also want to hear.
Yeah. Or they unlock something else, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, they lead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not technically a red herring, but it's like, you know, when you talk to somebody who doesn't necessarily further the case, but like leads you to have a conversation with somebody else. I mean, that is helpful to the narrative. Yeah.
Well, it's helpful to. Yeah. I mean, I think in some. Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes episodes also are different because, like in Belt Buckle, they're all giving me clues. In Britney, it's like thematically they're all tying together. Yeah. You know, like it really because a lot of them are not red herrings in that sense, but like I mean, I should actually probably throw in more red herrings if I want to do it like more classically.
Do you have people that you talk to throughout? I mean, other than obviously the person with the mystery, but are there people that are kind of like helping you get your bearings and helping you make sure that you're not like going crazy or wasting your time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the most important people are the ones who I can brainstorm with and just like run. And it also, or the people I will tell something to, and if they get excited, then I'm like, oh, it's working. Like I remember, it's funny because a lot of the cases, if you just were to say them, like people are always like, give me an example. And if you're just to say them, they don't sound as exciting as if you put them, you know, like that's the whole point, is that they're assembled to feel wondrous.
And again, it's like your show. It's like the elevator pitch of your show. It just doesn't sound, on the face of it, doesn't necessarily sound compelling.
I know.
Until you sit down and listen to it.
Yeah, I know. And like, it's actually like a big thing that happens even when I deliver the answers to the solutions to the clients, where like the reactions aren't always, like they'll have bigger reactions after they hear the episode than if I'm just straight telling it to them.
Isn't that weird too? If like the detective is not supposed to get more excited about the case than
because I've been with it, and like, and it's like some of it's like, if I'm just, you know, if you say, Hans's reaction is obviously gonna trump me saying his reaction, you know. So like I feel that's the power of tape. And it's all true, but it's just like how it's also like what a narrative is and what a story is and what a mystery is, like how you release information. So like I choose to put it together in a way that like you're supposed to be like on the edge of your seat, no matter what no matter if it's like question is how tall is Jake Gyllenhaal. Although David Reese had the best reaction. He was like, when I told him Jake's height, he's the best reactor in the business. But yeah, I do have people. I feel like it's really. I was just listening to Louis C.K. talk about Horace and Pete on Marc Maron. Yeah, and he said he's got this guy Vernon, who sits in who like Louis basically like will turn to him and like bounce ideas off of him, and they brainstorm together. And I feel like that's like a job that is like very underutilized. Yeah, you know, because that's like the most important stuff to me, is just making it like telling me if like having a friend or like an editor I trust tell me if the mystery is interesting, if I should keep going, and also like getting me out of my head, because like my head's a terrible place, and so like the whole thing, it's like I just need someone. Yeah. So I just need someone who like pulls me out of it.
Is it helpful to have radio people? Or do they think too much in terms of like if this is a good radio episode?
Yeah. I have to say,
like, would you bounce something off of Ira, for example?
I haven't. I have to say, I would bounce stuff off of Juliet at Serial, though. I have to say, like, I feel like the people I turn to for this are not so much radio people. Some people are, like Jonathan Goldstein. I'll bounce things off of.
But you want genuine reactions. You don't want to. This is going to be a good radio show. You want to like this. Oh, this is just. I'm interested in this as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I used different people for different things too. Sure. So like sometimes it's like if I want someone to do like an edit on the writing, and then other people I just want are very enthusiastic, and I know if I like tell them something, they'll make me feel better about that. Yeah. You know, like they'll just give an enthusiastic reaction. I know who won't give an enthusiastic reaction, even if they like it. You know what I mean? So I think the more you do creative stuff, the more you're able to like figure out who to go to for what, and it's not always quantifiable. Yeah. Sometimes it's totally just emotional.
How many open cases do you have right now?
I have like. Probably a dozen.
A dozen?
Yeah.
And those are all season 2?
Yeah, or maybe. Yeah, okay. Or some, yeah. Okay.
So you have
I mean, there's open.
Yeah.
There's like, they're open in the sense that, like, you have stories that you kind of start and don't, I mean, they're like, some of them are open because they haven't been fully, like, they haven't been solved or, like, quashed, you know what I mean? But they might be open and never, like, actually, like, worked on.
I mean, again, like, maybe this is the nice thing about the podcast is that, I mean, obviously it's good that you've set structure and that you've made it episodic. And, like, personally, like, I would rather listen to, I have trouble with, like, dramas on TV for the same reason. Like, it's easier for me to watch comedy shows because I can just, like, I can drop in and drop out of them. Like, I don't have enough, like, time in my life right now to devote to a show.
I'm the opposite. Okay. I feel like it's so much easier for me to watch dramas than comedies.
It's just so easy for me to be like, okay, well, I'll just devote, like, 30 seconds to this. And I think that's, like, the nice thing about podcasts, right, is, like, I'm at the gym or I'm on the train or something, and I can just, like, devote a little bit of my life to this, and I think your show works in that respect. But at the same time, I mean, you do have, it's your show and you have the freedom to play with the form, and you could potentially, like, revisit something or drag something out over multiple episodes. I mean, are you considering playing around with that a little bit, or is it just easier to do episodic at this point?
Yeah, I'm considering playing around with everything. I'm considering playing around with the stuff that makes the most sense to the show. Not like anything I do would not be because it's the easiest thing. Just because, like, what seems truest
God
to, like,
forbid.
the show. Yeah, no kidding. Like, I wish I could do something because it was easy. I think it's this horrible. I think it's a horrible trait of mine to not be able to.
You seem to really be enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Although you came in today and you were like, you're like just done with life.
I feel that. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy putting the shows together. Like, I really enjoy figuring out, like, the puzzle part of it is the funnest part, and I feel, I don't know, it's exciting to just create a new thing, and it feels new to me at least, but it's also stressful because there's so much I can't predict. I mean, the part that makes it good is also the part that makes it the hardest, for sure.
And it's also, I mean, it's also the difference between writing, like, a magazine article and writing a book. In a lot of cases, like, the joy is as bad as it sounds. A lot of the joy arises out of, like, you not only, like, finishing it and feel like you've it's done and it's out of your life, but that, like, that people are enjoying it and that are giving you feedback.
Yeah, I know the long lead is like. I know, and I didn't expect that to happen. I actually didn't expect it was going to be, like...
Take as long as it...
Or just that, I don't know. I just feel that part I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy the, like, putting something out there and then silence. It feels very much like writing a book. Yeah. Or making a movie. And, like... And then you have to kind of talk a lot about the ones that you already made, but then... And so that... Yeah,
we're talking about, Britney Spears from however how long ago.
So that I feel like that compared to being able to, like, just put a new thing out whenever I want is not as fun, that part.
Yeah. How much of your day-to-day mood, how much of your life is, like, invested in whether or not a case is going well?
I feel like everything about my mood
this
now
is just your life now.
Yeah, I feel like it's like all of my mood is now affected by that.
Yeah. And you don't, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I mean, that's the thing that's, like, in some ways has to be the worst thing about it is that you finish a season but you're still working on these other things, and there's never not something kind of hanging over your head in a sense.
Yeah, and I think that happened. I mean, like This American Life, the same. There's always like another story you have to do.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, that's just work.
That's just work. Yeah, I know.
But
this
it's
is
not.
Like,
but having something like open for a long time is kind of a different experience.
Yeah, and also like the open part is you're just like because you're not in control of when you can do certain things.
Yeah,
because you're like just waiting for people to like, get back to or break something open. Break the case open, and so that definitely. It's true. And there's like and you have to start immediately on the new stuff. Yeah. Because everything takes so much time.
But can you put things into perspective and realize that like you're not doing cereal, that like, that it's a lunchbox that made somebody's life. Are you able to step away and like kind of look at it and realize that somebody's life isn't necessarily hanging in the balance?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But at least with cereal, they like, your case.
Yeah.
And then you're able to like, definitely. I mean, I think, for sure. I mean, all this, in fact, very few people's lives were changed by these cases being solved. Yeah. But
do you still lose sleep?
I lose sleep because it's for other reasons, though. Because it's just like, if they don't, I guess because of that particular lack of urgency, it makes it feel less urgent, so then people don't always. It's like people take their time. Yeah, and so like if you have someone who's going to be like, whose life, if their freedom depends on you solving it, maybe people will be more urgent. Although it sounds like the prison system does not operate that way at all, and people, the bureaucratic stuff, a case drags.
Especially if you're Middle Eastern, it doesn't work the same way.
And so, but I feel like the source of the stress is more external pressure.
But it's just sort of like it's just like neuroses that you would bring to any job you did. No, because there's more like if you don't solve this, you don't have a show too. Okay. So like, but again, like in a sense, like that's just having a job, right? Like if you don't do this thing, you're not going to have the job. But if you don't do this, but aren't other things more in your control? If you the things that you can do. I suppose. I mean, I guess finding a story, but I also feel like that's why a lot of people do, like, kind of just like crank stuff out. Have you had a show that you've closed and just not felt satisfied? That you've not had that same catharsis? Yeah, actually, yeah. Yes, and I've had ones. I've had ones that don't click as much as those ones that you guys heard have. Like, those ones clicked really immediately, and I was, like, so locked in with every one of them and, like, feeling them so much. And I've definitely had ones where I'm like, like, it doesn't feel the same. So much of it depends on the conclusion you write, too, right? So much of it depends on, like, For me, it does. People try to tell me the conclusion doesn't matter as much, but I think it does. I think it's all part of it. I think every part of it goes together. But certainly your satisfaction depends on if you can, like, tie a bow on it. That's what I think. And so I think my satisfaction then makes everything else seem more clear in the writing process. So I feel like that's the whole problem, is even if people didn't care as much as I did about the solution, I would, and so it would jam me up. But you've never started that post-production process without knowing exactly what the end is. I have, yeah, and it totally is totally different. Like, I feel like I can feel myself sabotaging the writing and stuff because I'm just like, yeah. But I have started it because, like, sometimes I just miss cutting tape so much, or like. Yeah. And it also helps if I'm, like, working on a mystery and putting it together to see what else I need, or it just gives me ideas. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have that too with writing, and that's that's part of the reason why, like, I do, like, a podcast on the side and all these other non-work like freelance gigs and things like that, is because or even, like, I've had a lot of jobs where I'm doing a lot of features writing, and I'm like, oh, I need to just, like, crank out a 100-word blog post or something. Like, I need to just break up the monotony, even if it's even if it's the greatest job in the world, and it sounds like for you have possibly your greatest job. Like, you still need to break things up. Yeah, I think for me it has to be not by doing anything similar. Like, I think I need to learn a new craft, a hobby. Like, I need to learn how to do something else too, so I can, like, when I'm when I get stuck, I can then do that really fast, and it can't be writing or cutting. I think it's got to be a whole different kind of thing. How did you start in the radio game? The radio business. I was in college, and then I made a documentary, this, like, crappy documentary about my neighbor who thought I was a drug kingpin,
I was living in the building in East Village that is, you know, that fire that happened last year?
The explosion?
Yeah. There's a building that's like left standing, and that's the building I lived in. And this neighbor thought I was a drug kingpin, so I made a documentary about her.
That was a segment, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then that guy Paul Tuff, who I still talk to, and he's really great to talk to at Mystery Show. He came over. He heard about it because I was working in a bookstore, Shakespeare and Company, that used to be near here.
Yeah. It's still here.
I don't think so.
Are you sure?
Is it that one? Is
the one on Broadway?
It is.
Yeah,
is it?
I think so.
Oh, the other one's closed.
Oh, maybe not. Anyway,
It kind of didn't update itself.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a good place to work at the time. And then I would have barbecues, and people I worked with at the bookstore would come over to the barbecues I'd have on my roof in East Village, and then I'd show this video, and one of them, and then you could like watch it and then go in the hall, and the old lady would be like shining a flashlight into the hall. She really it's
like interactive.
It was really interactive. It was like a Disneyland ride. And then one of the people told Paul Tuff, and he came and did that story about me and her, and then I was like, I just want to do what you do. So then
Interesting.
Yeah.
You were the subject.
Mm-hmm. And then I became an intern and then a producer.
So you were... Wait, did you... I'm sorry, I think you just said this, but you studied film?
I studied dramatic writing.
What does that mean?
Like script writing, play writing. I would go back and forth between the two.
But you thought you were going to be documentarian?
No, I didn't know what I was going to be. I had no idea. Like, I took a video class, that's why. No, I had no idea. In fact, and I didn't even totally mean to major in playwriting or screenwriting. I just thought I was doing writing. I didn't know. I was like 18.
Yeah.
It's weird. That movie, that Nice Guys movie, was written by Shane Black. And I went in screenwriting school. They used to that's when he wrote this movie, Long Kiss Goodbye.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know who Shane Black is because I would be given his scripts for homework. It's a dumb degree. It's the dumbest degree to have as a 19-year-old. So I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know. I just didn't know liberal arts schools existed.
Did you know? I guess A, did you know about This American Life, and B, did you know that that kind of narrative radio? Did you listen to radio? Really?
No, I didn't know anything. Honestly, because I didn't go to the kind of schools that you would have learned this stuff, I guess. Yeah. This American Life was pretty new, and I'd never heard NPR until I was on it. I didn't even know NPR was. And so, I was like 20 when I was on the show, I think. And so,
You did. I have heard the Disneyland episode. You did lead kind of a weirdly sheltered life, right?
Yeah, I just didn't come from the kind of family that listened to NPR, which is weird because they were like Jews in Southern California, but somehow I did not know what NPR was.
But you're from Orange County though, right? I mean, that's I'm from California. I know that's a very different California.
I'm from Orange County, but my mom was from Chicago.
Oh, okay.
My dad was from Long Beach, and then
California.
And then my mom moved from Chicago to LA, and then for some reason my parents moved to Orange County, and it makes no sense. Yeah. It's so dumb.
Are they Republicans?
No, my mom was Democrat. My dad was kind of I don't know, but he was kind of Republican, but in the Bob Dole sense. I don't know.
Like old school.
Old school, yeah.
I gotta ask. This is totally off topic, but I have to ask you because I think they just replayed the Disneyland episode.
Yeah. It's funny. Everyone's all worried about me all of a sudden. I feel like I feel like it now sounds like there's a lot of pathos to that story.
Yeah. Well, did your parents know that they were weird?
I don't know. I mean, there's another episode where they're in it, about my parents' divorce.
Oh,
that,
I don't know
my mom seems totally weird in it. So that one's much more, I feel like that one's really illuminating.
Yeah.
It's funny because so many people get me confused with Sarah Vowell.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, because our upbringings are so obviously different.
Voice.
I don't think I sound like her, but also
you might have a similar timbre to Sarah Vowell.
I don't think so.
No, okay.
But also she has such a different upbringing, obviously. But I think my parents. I don't know. That Disneyland story I did it was the first story I ever did on This American Life. I was really young.
Yeah.
And now I feel like people who have heard Myster Show have now heard that story, and I think they think I did it recently.
Yeah.
Even though I sound younger on it. But I think they're sending me really kind of sympathetic tweets about diagnosing my mom, and I'm I don't know. I mean,
that's got to be that, or even the Phil Collins thing, because that gets played a lot, and I mean, it's kind of a cheesy thing to ask, but are you reliving it when it comes back?
I'm not reliving it. It's more it's a strange thing, radio, because it's like not like if you have a magazine piece and they repost it, it's not like people think you just wrote it.
Yeah.
I'm not really. I mean, I don't ever hear them when they replay them, but I feel.
I mean,
well, I know if they do the breakup one, I know because I suddenly get a lot of tweets of people asking me if I've ever heard from Anthony or if I still love Anthony. Like, it's like really personal questions, which is my fault because I put a personal story out there. But it's in that one, the more years that pass since that one aired, the weirder it is when people ask me about that. And I think people also think I'm like frozen in time in that story, and so like I think they're all like kind of upset that time has passed. And now there's this thing where like kind of like Mystery Show has its own voice, and then those stories have their own voice, and I feel like it's not like the backstory of Starlee the detective is the past that is on This American Life. You know what I mean?
Does it feel? Does it feel like personal in a similar way that those feel personal? I mean, you do like and I think again this plays into like why I thought it was sort of like some of these kids books or something is it starts off with a story about you talking about you and your sister, I think, digging up the box. I mean, you make a point to make it kind of personal.
It's true. Only that one time though.
Yeah. But that ends up framing the show. It
frames the thing, yeah. But I feel like even though that's true, it's not like you can then be like, oh, I'm gonna listen to This American Life stories and like the character's mother on Mystery Show is the mother who took her to Disneyland. Like I would feel like those are supposed to be like different things.
It's not a spin-off.
It's not a spin-off, but I feel like I would understand why people would be like, oh. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because it's all true. Mystery Show is all true, and like it's really me. But I feel like there is a different persona, a slightly different persona.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like. I mean, you come out in the show. You have to. You're like the narrator, and you're the fulcrum, and all these other things. But like you don't. You seem to make a point about not making it about yourself.
Yeah, I don't want it to be about myself. And I feel like there's also like a subtle difference between like my persona when I'm reading script and then like me in interviews. Yeah, it's like different. It's slightly different, but I don't want. I did not want to do a show about myself.
I mean, did you consider like splitting up the two, like having a different person do the narration, or did it always just make sense? Because it's like so dependent on me. But I feel like I thought about like co-detectives and stuff like that in the beginning, but I liked more the idea of investigators and sidekicks. There you have that. Was Starlee Kine. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to do that. Really, really enjoyed that conversation. It's nice talking to somebody who kind of does what you do, but is much, much better at their job than you will ever possibly be. It took a while for us to organize that conversation. I've been kind of busy. She's been extremely busy. She's working on season 2 of Mystery Show. She's been flying around all over the place, so I have very, very high hopes for this next season. The first one was fantastic. If you like the work that she's done on shows like This American Life, you will very much enjoy the program. Check it out now. Unfortunately it's only 6 episodes long. It takes a lot of work to do that show. It's a very small staff, very, very research intensive. But really, really fantastic. So check that out over. It's one of the Gimlet's programs. Highly recommend it. Thanks to her for doing that. Thanks to Brian, as always, for editing the show together. Thanks to you guys for listening. If you liked what you heard, please consider rating us over on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Please consider pitching in like $1 or $2 over on our Patreon. We don't run any ads. There are no mattress ads or ads for places that you can send away and get weird boxes of things delivered to your door. None of that at the top of the show. We just ask that if you do enjoy the program, if you have been listening for a while, consider pitching in like $1 or $2. It costs money to do this. It costs money to pay Brian to edit it together. It costs money to host it. So please consider helping out that way. If you've got any feedback, it's rylcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Tumblr. That's rylcast.tumblr.com. That is the first and best place to get all of your RIYL related information. Like us on Facebook. I think it's about all of the very minimal social media presence we have. And that's about all I got for this week. So stick around because we'll be back just about this time next week with another episode of RAYL.